So, welcome to the Happy Mindset Show, episode number 10. Today I'm joined by Jamie Smart. Jamie is a Sunday Times bestselling author, a coach, a trainer, and he's helping hundreds of people, or probably thousands, who knows, to live life more in alignment with what they really want to do. And today, the episode's called Creating a Brand, because Jamie's got a brand called Clarity, and he's got some really good information that I've seen from him. And I want to just explore that today with Jamie. So, Jamie, thanks for taking the time to talk to me today.
Oh, it's really great to be here, Dennis.
So, could you give us just a brief introduction to yourself and how you came to an understanding of the mind and creating a Clarity brand for my listeners?
Well, sure. So, and just to backtrack a little bit, I used to have a full-time job. I was an employee and everything like that. And in the late 1990s, I became fascinated with how the mind works. So I got interested in, NLP and hypnosis and just understand. And a lot of my motivation for that, part of it was about kind of sorting out my own stuff and, figuring out how I could live with more of a happy mindset. And part of it was about, I was passionate about, and still am passionate about, working with groups and working with people and all that sort of stuff. So I got interested in it. And so I thought, okay, well, this is what I want to do professionally. I guess I'm going to have to learn how to run a business and all that sort of stuff, because I'd never done that before. When I say run a business, at least enough to be, because I'd always had a job ever since I was in the workforce. And so someone else had taken care of all that stuff. Someone else had taken care of getting income into the business and serving customers and all that sort of stuff. And I had very specific little roles in the company, like being a computer programmer or a computer operator or a project manager or whatever. But actually, a lot of the stuff that ended up with a salary getting paid into my bank account, that got handled by other people. In fact, this will sound funny, but when I had my first job in the UK, I was working for Oxford University Press as a computer operator. And I was talking to one of the people in the publishing team or something. And they mentioned the sales force. And I said, oh, what do? They said, well, they go into university libraries and that sort of thing. And they get orders for our journals and publication. I'm like, oh, like I was clueless about, like, no one, because I hadn't grown up in a world where that was relevant. I'd grown up in a kind of, do good at school, get a good job, and that was the kind of the mindset. So when I decided I wanted to do something that was more kind of fulfilling and on purpose for me, I was like, okay, well, I got to start learning about this stuff. And I just looked at other, I thought, well, which companies do I find interesting or admirable, or which are the companies that I could name? And it was things like, Amazon and Apple and Hoover or Virgin or that sort of thing. And so I thought, oh, well, they've all got brands. So I wonder, and back then I thought, well, I wonder what a brand is. And I thought that a brand was a logo, okay? But as I explored it, what I realized is that, well, and I remember when I was starting, a few years later, I was starting a company, and I was trying to come up with a name for it. And I'd had a partnership with a buddy of mine, and we called it Hologram. And so I really liked our logo. This was back when I thought brand was logo, and so I thought I thought I'll call the new company Hologram Training, because I thought holograms were cool and that sort of stuff. My friend Gina had been on a course with me on this particular day, and Gina did product and brand semiotics. So she would dig deep into the meanings and associations that people had with brands. So I thought, okay, well, I'll get some free branding advice for Gina. So I'm like, Gina, what do you think of the name Hologram Training for my company? And she's like, do you really want to know? And I'm like, yeah, tell me. She's like, she then explained to me really, really clearly why it was possibly the shittest name of all time. So I'm sitting there and I'm crestfallen because I really liked it, right? Yeah. So I'm like, well, what would be a better name then? And she's like, well, anything you talked about today on the course you did. would be better. And I said, like what? And she's like, well, like word salad. I told this story about a client of Milton Erickson's. Milton Erickson was a legendary hypnotherapist. People used to call this guy the miracle worker because he would create these incredible transformations for people. And Erickson and his story had been one of the things that really sparked my interest in doing the work that I do. And one of my favorite stories was about this guy called George. And Erickson, when he went to a new mental hospital to work there, they would wheel out the most difficult and intractable patients for Erickson to work with to see if they could, give him someone he couldn't work with. So they brought out this guy, George, and George had been admitted like 7 or 8 years earlier. And he spoke in word salad. So the words that came out would be like 9 fire hydrant, carpet, thumbtack, fish hose, paper, drill, corn sheaf. So there was structure and syntax to it, but it didn't mean anything. So Erickson sits with the guy. He got the staff to transcribe all this word salad, and then he taught himself to speak this. And sat down with the guy, and the guy came out with all this stuff. Then Erickson came out with all this stuff. Then the guy came out with all this stuff. Then Erickson came out with all, and they went back and forth all day until this guy finally goes, "Good God, Dr. Erickson, won't you talk some sense?" And Erickson goes, "Certainly, my name's Milton. What's your name?" And the guy goes, "George." And within a very short period of time, like 6, 7, 8 months, George was completely well and released from hospital and everything like that. And that story had a huge impact on me about the power of connection. And to me, the essence of brand is about connecting with your audience. And so Gina said, well, any of the stories you told today, like word salad. So I thought I liked that word salad, and I thought about it. I thought probably don't want to name my company after a mental illness. So I played around with it, and I boiled it down to salad. And here's the interesting thing, Dennis. When I told some of my colleagues that I was calling my new company Salad, they're like, "What? Are you crazy? That's a terrible name." But what I realized is that the power in the brand isn't the name. Like names can be important, but that's not the be all and end all. The power is in the feelings and experiences that people connect with it. And so I really kind of got that. And so when I created I sold Salad back in 2012 and created my new company, and our brand is about clarity. And that was, my first book became a bestseller, and it was called Clarity, Clear Mind, Better Performance, Bigger Results. And so then how I think about it is that I almost want to think of the brand, the image, the word, and that sort of thing, as being kind of like a button, and that every time that button is pressed for someone, it has a certain feeling and certain things they associate with it and certain ideas. And so my idea is that the brand isn't just that word or that logo. The brand is everything about how we do what we do. It's about the level of care that we give to our clients. It's about how we show up when we're in professional life and out of professional life. It's about our values as an organization and our congruence and all that stuff. All of that is part of the brand. It's not just the logo. It's actually our values and how we live those values and how we treat our clients and what our vision and purpose are. All of that is part of the brand.
And how do you find the balance between the techniques that are involved in getting your message out there and not staying true to the values of the brand itself then?
Well, in terms of getting a message out there, it seems to me that the technical side of it, like, so for instance, I've got my phone here, and with my phone I can do a Facebook Live, or I can, if I look at the the bottom row, I've got Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Well, those tools are incredibly powerful. Like they give us the kind of platform today that 20 years ago only the captains of industry and heads of state and the media, those were the only people who had it. And now anyone has that. I can literally right now do a Facebook Live, and by tonight it'll have been seen by thousands of people. So the techniques are, it's just whatever tools are relevant today. Now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it may be that none of those four things I just mentioned are relevant. Those particular tools may have been replaced by something else or superseded by something else, but the core essence of the brand is still going to be the same, and the principles of how to reach people are still going to be the same. So, Dennis, how I think of it anyway is, and it's never been more true than today. We've got whatever it is, 7 billion of people on the planet. The vast majority of those people have never heard of me, never heard of Clarity, never heard of my work, not even interested in it. They're not interested in what I've got to say. They're interested in what's important to them. What's important to them is going to be whatever's on their mind. Whatever is interesting to them, whatever's a problem to them, whatever's challenging to them, whatever's aspirational to them, whatever's exciting to them. That's the stuff that they're going to care about. Like the people who are listening to us right now, maybe they're somewhat interested in what I've got to say because they're connected to you, and they're like, well, Dex brings on interesting people, so I'll give this guy with the funny accent a chance. But that's about as far as it goes. If I want to get someone who's listening to this to give me the time and intention to engage with my brand, I've got to meet them where they are and show them why what I have to say and what I have to offer is relevant to them and interesting to them and could solve a problem for them and could be helpful for them and all that sort of stuff. So the funny thing is, Dennis, techniques. This will sound sort of strange, but when I started my first business back when I started Salad in 2003, so this was the second one actually. When I started Salad in 2003, the technique I had was write an email newsletter and send that out and build a list. There was no Facebook, there was no Snapchat, there was no Instagram. Now, the tools are different today, but the principles are the same, the principles of what I'm doing. And you could say to me, Dennis, say, Jamie, you're banned from using Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and email. Not allowed to use any of them. Now what are you going to do? I'd be like, okay, I'll use Medium, and I'll use Anchor, and I'll use Podcast Network. Like, I'm not saying I want to do that, but the people who are doing a good job of reaching people today, they're going to still be doing a good job of reaching people 10 years from now, because the tools are just the tools. You understand the principles behind this stuff, then you can use any tools.
And I guess a question that somebody might be thinking now is, how did you gradually understand the principles behind these tools? Like, because that's how you're keeping up to date with stuff, and that's how you can just go through any medium. But how did you find that grounding in the understanding of that these are just tools, instead of I have to know the ins and outs of each tool and it gets complex then?
Well, part of it, it was really clear to me when I decided that I wanted to be a professional coach and teacher and trainer and workshop leader and speaker and all that stuff. I was like, well, I guess you better learn about marketing, and you better learn about sales, and you better learn about all those things that you didn't have to learn about when you had a company that employed you and they had a sales force and a marketing department, that someone else handled all that. So it just looked obvious. It looked really obvious to me that if I wanted to do this as my profession, I needed to get good at that stuff. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't seem controversial to me. It's like, learn about that stuff. So I started reading books and listening to audios and learning. Like, there's no shortage of good information out there, right? Just learning about it. But then what I started doing is putting it into practice. So not just learning for learning's sake, learning it and then trying it out and seeing what works. So over the years, I've developed all sorts of instincts about that stuff and all sorts of intuitions. I'm not sitting here saying I'm the best person at that stuff. I've still got lots to learn and lots of things I get wrong and lots of things I could do. No doubt about it. But what I see a lot of people doing, Dennis, is they go, oh, I don't like that stuff. I'm just going to ignore it. It's like, that's okay. But if you want people to pay you for what you do, you need to make it as easy as possible for that to happen. Because if you think about it, like, if I think about the last 10 places I've spent money in the last 72 hours, where have I spent money? Sainsbury's, Amazon, Starbucks, a restaurant, Cote. All these places where I've spent money, they've already got all that stuff handled. And if someone's watching and listening to this and goes, geez, I'd like Jamie to show up and spend £10 or £100 or £1,000 with me, well, you got to make that easy for me. Got to make that easy for me. And the first challenge I see a lot of people running into when they're trying to do something they're really passionate about, they really care about, the first step in making it easy for someone to spend money with you is they need to be able to find you. They need to be able to find you. If they don't even, like, we live at this amazing time in history when it's never been easier to reach people. So we've got, like I said, we've got these incredible tools. We got the phones and the platforms and everything like that. That's a huge gift. But the flip side of that is that people's attention is it's probably the most valuable thing on the planet. So there's huge competition for people's attention. And the fact is, most people who would like to get someone else's attention, they're actually being ignored. So they could have something that's really, really valuable for someone who's listening to this podcast, but because that person isn't able to get their attention or hasn't got their attention, they don't even realize they're there. So it seems to me that if you want if you want to do what you're doing professionally, whatever that is, whether you're a coach or a therapist, whether you make jewelry, whether you're a football or whatever it is you do, you've got to either get someone to employ you where they take care of the making it easy for you to get paid, or you need to figure out what needs to happen so that someone can actually give you cash or wire it into your bank account or give you their credit card details. And what I see with a lot of people is they've got something they really want to do, but if someone called them up and said, hey, I really want to give you some money, how can I do that? They would say, can you send me a check? Like, who do I make it out? Oh, geez, I haven't got my company bank account set up yet. They're like, oh, geez, that's a hassle. I don't have a checkbook. Do you take credit cards? No, I haven't got that figured out. Well, do you have PayPal? I do, but I've lost the password for my, it's like the step one, if you want to be a professional whatever, you want to get paid for it, then make it easy. Like, you don't want to be putting articles up that make it difficult for someone to pay you. And that includes being able to find you in the first place, seeing the relevance of what you do, being able to try you out and see if they like what you're offering, and being able to transfer the money into your account. Like, those are the absolute basics.
Cool. I think from what I'm getting from you there, I think the message itself is actually more important than the medium. So if that's the case, if everybody's got a message within them that they can get out to people, how do I get a grounding in that message where I can get clarity and I know who I am, I know what I want to actually get out there in the first place?
Well, that's a good question. And I think so what I've found incredibly helpful with that is getting a deeper understanding of the principles behind clarity, actually, because what happens for a lot of people is we get so caught up with what we think we should do or how we should be doing it or what we ought to be saying or what our parents want us to do or what our friends are doing or that sort of thing. And there's huge value in just getting an understanding of what's going on for you. And so that's the way I sometimes talk about that is about authentic desires. And authentic desires are just the things you want just because you want them, not because you think that'll make you happy or that'll, that's what you should want, or if you didn't get it, you couldn't be happy or whatever. It's just the stuff that when you think of it, it lights you up, you're excited about it. But the other piece of it looks to me like it is about going on the journey. It looks like a process of discovery. In my own experience, is that process of discovery happens gradually while you're taking action. Like you can't what I see a lot of people wanting to do, they want to figure it all out first, get a seal of approval that says they won't make any mistakes or be criticized or fail or get it wrong. They get it and they want to guarantee that it's all going to work out, and then they'll go do it. And that's not reality. Like, if you want to create something, and if you want to, because really everything I've just been describing, Dennis, is a learning process. If you want to create something cool, then you need to learn. Like, if I look back to when I started my first business all those years ago, I was a total dumbass about a million things. And now I'm only a dumbass about 750,000 things. So it's like I've been learning. I've figured a bunch of stuff out. And I wouldn't have been able to figure that stuff out if I just stuck around and not done anything until I felt like I was ready. You need to jump in. You need to get started. You need to crack on and really discover for yourself. So I encourage people to explore the principles behind clarity. That's been a real game changer for me, and to take action.
Mm-hmm. Were you always like that, an action taker? Because somebody might be thinking, oh, Jamie's just like that naturally. He's one of those action takers. But were you always like that to begin with?
Well, yes and no. The thing that I've always had is I've always been scared of making mistakes and that sort of thing. But I've always been, except where I'm not, willing to take action despite the fact that I'm scared.
Mm-hmm.
And I meet a lot of people, Dennis, who are going, oh, wait till I'm not scared, then I'll take action. I'm like, dude, it takes courage. Like, if you stop and think about it for a moment, a lot of the people who are, we live at this incredible time in history. We're incredibly privileged for the most part. We've got incredible gifts that we're given. And we have the opportunity, pretty much unprecedented in history. Through most of history, if you were born in a place and your dad was a farmer, then you were going to be a farmer, and your kid was going to be a farmer, and that was the way it was going to be. And if you were, if your dad was a sailor, then you'd probably get sent off to sea too, or whatever. All of a sudden, for the first time in history, you can pretty much be whatever you want to be. You can decide that you're not going to do what everyone else has done. You can decide to do what lights you up. And so that's an incredible gift, incredible opportunity. And it's good. You're going to have to grow a pair if you want to do that. It's going to mean, because it's going to mean flying in the face of a lot of the stuff that your parents and society and that your friends all think you should be doing. So I remember when I first quit my job back in 98. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I handed in my notice and went out. So many people going, oh, that's so brave. I could never do that. It's like, well, sure you could. Sure you could. But you're going to have to grow a pair. It means taking responsibility for yourself. And that's the other thing, Dennis, a lot of us, and this won't be popular. People won't like hearing this. But the way that we go to, the education system was deliberately designed to create a relatively obedient workforce for factories and offices and that sort of thing. And it has an infantilizing quality to it, that people are told, oh, especially in the old days, like you be good and the company will take care of you. You'll get a gold watch when you retire and all that sort of stuff. And so people are used to not having to think for themselves and to having someone else take responsibility for their paycheck and having someone else take care of them and that sort of thing. But that's actually an illusion. It's not that, because I remember when I handed in my notice at my job, and then a few months later, so I was doing some contracting. And the HR director of the company I was contracting with said, what did he say? He said, oh, Jamie, we want to offer you this package, director level salary, company car, all this stuff. And I'm like, no, you're all right. Thanks. I don't want it. And he's like, but it means job security. And I'm like, no. Job security is just an illusion. There is no job security. I said, people get made redundant all the time. Job security is it's the illusion of job security. And he was bothered by that. He's like, well, what if everyone thought like that? What if I just went off and did what I wanted to do? I'm like, well, fill your boots, do whatever you like. But that's I think it's easy when we see people who are creating cool stuff and doing what they want to do. It's easy to think that they're different, like Jamie's different or Dennis is different or so-and-so is different. But we're all human beings. We all work the same way. And I guarantee you, anyone who's super successful or setting out in a bold new direction, they get scared. They don't like getting criticized. They don't like making mistakes. It bothers them. But they suck it up, and they're, one of the things, funnily enough, that learning the principles behind clarity has really helped me with is just help me be more comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm just okay with being uncomfortable, or more okay with being uncomfortable. And that's really useful.
That's it, and I suppose it's being comfortable with being human as well. I think a lot of it is just, it frees up space when you're comfortable with your own flaws and mistakes, and you just kind of start to own them a bit more.
You bet.
And how about community? So you've got a large community now. How did that naturally form, the community that you have today?
Well, it formed slowly. When I first, in 2003, I wrote my first article. I sent it out to everyone in my email inbox, which was 200 or 300 people. I said, if you know anyone else who would like this, pass it on. And a couple of people did. And every week I wrote an article. But the thing that helped me create that was consistency. I did it consistently, week in, week out, year in, year out. So by the end of the first year, we were probably at 5,000 or 6,000 people. By the end of 3 or 4 years, we're more like 70,000 or 80,000 people. But it was just writing things that were interesting to people, that they wanted to hear about. So it was... And over time, I got to tune that. So it was also the stuff I was passionate about. And that, at the heart of it, as I see it anyway, Dennis, it's about giving value. What my community, the reason I get to have a community that looks to me for input and advice and support and learning is because I've shown them consistently that I care. And that I'm willing to give value, and that I'll, go the extra mile and that sort of thing. And it's really cool. It's a very privileged position to be in, and I'm grateful that people are willing to give me their attention and their loyalty, and to invest their time and their energy and their money and their trust in me through trainings and products and that sort of thing. And I'm grateful for the support. I don't take it for granted. I'm lucky. I feel lucky and blessed to have it.
At any stage did you feel alone when you made that decision at the start to kind of do more of the stuff you're doing?
Sure. I mean, it's always, especially like in 2009. So I'd been doing the NLP hypnosis thing, and I had a sudden insight, and I did kind of a 180, and I said, said to my community, guys, I'm changing direction. There's principles behind psychology, and that's when I started down the path of clarity. And it was a real, a lot of people actually, when I made that announcement, probably, and when we sold the company, probably out of a tribe of 80,000, probably 15,000 came with me back then. And so over the last 5 years, we've been building it up again. And obviously, because, the books have become bestsellers, Results became a Sunday Times bestseller, and that's continued to grow and get momentum and that sort of thing. But yeah, sure, that's the thing about being in a leadership role. Basically, it comes down to you. It's down to you to make those decisions and to make those calls. But then I meet lots of other people who are like, oh, I couldn't do that. It's like, well, yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. You're just scared. You're just scared of what if people don't like it, or what if people criticize you. I don't mind being criticized. I don't like being criticized. I don't look out for it, but I don't mind. I don't mind. There's much worse things in life than being criticized.
So how important is personal growth for the growth of a business as well?
Well, I think it's essential because especially if it's something you're creating. The world is changing really, really quickly. And the opportunities that exist tomorrow, they're going to be things that are invisible today. And if you're kind of stuck in the past and not growing and present and in touch with right now, it's going to be hard to spot them. And also, if someone's not growing personally, then whenever we're not growing personally, we're kind of at the mercy of our own blind spots and our own foibles and insecurities. And I kind of think if you want to do your own thing and that sort of thing, you need all the help you can get. So the less you're tying your own shoelaces together, the better. So growing personally is a way to avoid that.
Mm. So another question I would have was it easy to let go of the salad brand and move on to the Clarity brand?
Well, it depends what you mean by easy. I mean, I sold the company because it looked to me like there was value in that company, but it was no longer a direction I was interested in going in. But by the same token, I did it in a planned and structured way, because as I built the salad brand, I had loads and loads of loyal clients who had given me a lot of time and attention and money and care and love over the years. And I didn't want to be disrespectful to those people. I wanted to say, look, I'm going in a new direction, but enjoy the stuff that I've created for you so far, and if you want to come with me, then great. So it wasn't emotionally that difficult, but there was a lot involved in it. And also the salad brand had been very closely identified with me personally, so it took us a little while to kind of disidentify that before we sold the business.
Yeah, I get you, yeah. And did you find that your time with NLP, did it help you to articulate the principles behind clarity a lot better because you had an understanding of words and the way they work?
I don't know. I mean, for all I know, I would have been even better at articulating it if I'd never learned that stuff. But I speak the way I speak. I use language in the way that I do. And I don't really want to pay too much attention to that. What I will tell you, though, Dennis, is, I started Salad in 2003, and then every week for a decade, I wrote an article. So it really made me a better writer. I learned how to write, and I developed a style and a voice. And that really served me when I wrote my first book, Clarity, and when I wrote the little book of Clarity, and when I wrote Results. Being able to write, and to write in a way that's articulate and clear and speaks to what people are interested in and the questions they've got on their mind. Now, my linguistic skills go into my writing, but that doesn't look to me to be nearly as important as my understanding of people and the world and the learning process and how people change and grow. So I think the stuff that I learned that has really helped me articulate things has actually just been about learning about people and how people think and learn and grow.
Mm, I get you. And would you have any one single advice for somebody who wants to move more in alignment with their own purpose and direction in life?
Well, my number one piece of advice would be get a deeper understanding of the principles behind clarity, because it really is a game changer. And I work with a lot of people who, when they first come to me, they've been struggling to do what you just said, or they've been finding it difficult, or maybe they're going in circles, or maybe they're not sure about it. And just getting clear, using these principles to get clear about who you really are and how your mind works and what really matters to you, then kind of clears the decks and makes it so much easier for you to take action and move in the direction you want to go. So it'll sound, I know, a little bit self-serving, because that's what what I'm passionate about and what I teach is the principles behind clarity and help people wake up to that for themselves. But the reason I teach that is because I haven't found anything better for helping people get out of their own way and make progress in a way that is aligned with who they really are and is, on track and on purpose for what they want to create in the world.
That's it. Actually, I'm a member of your community at the moment, and what I found helpful is that people are all looking in the same direction, even though we're going in different ways. It's nice to have that community, and a lot of it is just me getting out of my own way and actually doing what I want to do in the world, and my grounding in the principles behind clarity are helping that an awful lot, I found.
Oh, I'm really glad to hear it, Dennis.
Yeah, no, it's true. I just said I'd mention that. I suppose my last question for you, Jamie, would be, what's your favorite book and why?
Well, I've got tons of favorite books. I love, so I don't have one favorite. Probably at the moment, the book I go back to again and again and again is The Missing Link by Sid Banks. And the reason I like it so much is I'll read like a sentence in there that just stops me in my tracks, and I can open it anywhere, and I just get the bit that's right for me at the moment. But it depends, there are countless things that I'm interested in, Dennis. So it just depends on which book for which day, There are some amazing books out there, and it's so, books are so cool, man. Someone can take 10 or 20 or 30 years of experience and insight and wisdom and realization and write it down, and you can pick it up for like 10 quid. It's like, holy cow, a lifetime of experience for a tenner. The books are so awesome.
And were you always a reader, Jamie? Was it just since you started doing businesses and stuff, or when you were younger, were you into reading?
Yeah, since I was like 4 or 5, I've always loved reading. Loved books and loved reading. Love reading. I still love reading fiction, actually. I read lots of fiction, lots of nonfiction, and lots of audiobooks these days, actually. I love listening to audiobooks.
Oh, I've heard a lot of people saying that they listen to audiobooks to, instead of always listening to music and stuff, even in between stuff, that's how they gain more knowledge, I suppose, during the day without having to make a conscious effort sometimes. It's that they can be good for that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So now, Jamie, how would somebody get in contact with you if they wanted to reach out to you and understand more about what you're doing?
All the usual ways. You can find my websites at jamiesmart.com. That's JAMIESMART.com. Then I'm on all the usual social places at jamiesmartcom. So at jamiesmartcom on Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook. And then on LinkedIn, I'm Jamie Smart Clarity. So those are the usual ways. Or you can get my books, Clarity, The Little Book of Clarity, and Results at Amazon and all the usual bookstores. And I've got podcasts up on the podcast network. I've got the Results Mindset podcast and the Profitable Coaches podcast for coaches and therapists.
I'll put some of those links in the notes as well for people to click into. So thanks for taking the time out today, Jamie, for talking to us and sharing your insights around branding and around just getting your message out there and helping people to live more in alignment with their own message. So
beautiful. My pleasure, Dennis.
Perfect. So until next time, have fun and enjoy the process.